Good morning from my aquarium. Rebecca, good to be back here yammering at you guys. Last week when the CEO of United Health was gunned down, it occurred to me that the powers that be may have made a very predictable mistake in the way they've been messing with the population for the last few years. If you notice, we have seen in the last 6 months, there was an attempt on Donald Trump's life. There was another man who was found in waiting, apparently with the intention of trying to target Donald Trump. And then we have the CEO murdered, these very spectacular, high profile, audacious sort of crimes, right? And in each case, it turns out that the person responsible wasn't a liberal, wasn't a conservative, wasn't, hard right, wasn't necessarily MAGA. Instead, they seem to be like weird amalgamations, at least two of them passed through the whole MAGA thing. And here's the mistake. See, people always think, people always think that you can take a sociopath and you can control them. You can weaponize them against your enemies, right? But you can't actually control a sociopath. They're going to do what they want to do. They're going to think their own thoughts and they're going to go their own way. And we see this, those of us who paid any attention to history will recall that Adolf Hitler, the powers that be thought that they could control him. Well, prop him up. He's a fascist. He'll support our businesses. We can, his nonsense, whatever. That's just, a side issue. We can control him. Well, no, they really couldn't. And I think that the powers that be may have done that again, except for not necessarily even with Donald Trump, although he's the obvious one. But think of all the not right in the head people who have been on the receiving end of all of their messaging about how the world is on fire and the elites are doing whatever, and how violence is, sometimes necessary. It may come that we have been having a population that has just been inundated with pro-violence, populist rhetoric, right? Well, you can't control what people do once they're on that path. And the reason why I think this is going to be really significant over the next few years is if you go back to 2015, 2016, and Cambridge Analytica. For those of you who weren't paying attention at the time, if you remember on Facebook, there were all of these personality tests that were really popular about a decade ago, right? What does your name mean? Pick this picture. What does your favorite color say about you? All that kind of stuff. And they'd encourage you to share them. It came out later that many of those were actually being conducted. Facebook was giving access to organizations, some of them academic and some of them like Cambridge Analytica, which was funded by Steve Bannon and the Mercer family. Okay. So what they were doing was they were actually going and taking all of that data and they were identifying people who had different personality traits so that they could engage in micro-targeting. This is the power of, social media and all of their technology. So you could now find somebody who, but they weren't doing it just on issues, like somebody who really cares about food, maybe is interested in food security or, just like that kind of thing. No, they were actually looking at personality traits. So somebody who is anxious, somebody who is fearful, somebody who is angry, somebody who is entitled. They were finding those people. In fact, one of the things that they were looking for were people who displayed what are called dark triad personality traits. These are your sociopaths, your psychopaths, your malignant narcissists. Dark triad would be narcissism, manipulation, and sadism. Okay. They literally used those personality tests to go and identify people who scored high on dark triad personality traits and then target them for political advertising in order to kind of activate them as MAGAs, right? Except you can't actually control psychos. So they may well have been activated as MAGAs or whatever happened, but that doesn't mean they're just going to stay there, right? Especially you're providing them with all this messaging, all this messaging, all this messaging. Well, the real world pops in every so often, right? And you start to realize, oh, hey, I couldn't get insurance. I couldn't get my, surgery covered because of that jerk over there. Well, yeah, what happens when somebody with dark triad personality traits who's been being bombarded with pro-violent messaging, extremely populist, pro-violent messaging, being told that the world's on fire, how do you think that person's going to respond to that messaging? Like, they're not just going to buy a MAGA hat and show up to vote every couple of years. Like you literally went and found those people and said, activate, get involved in politics and populism. And also sometimes violence is the way. We have to be ready to defend ourselves. Yeah. Well, what we're seeing apparently is that it appears that some of these people who may well have been activated by this messaging, by this targeting, are going their own way. And it's unpredictable. And I wouldn't feel really safe if I were a person in a position of power and prestige under these circumstances, quite frankly. And we can have conversations from now until kingdom come about whether it is good or right or justified or moral or ethical for people to engage in kind of vigilante justice, although I don't even understand this latest guy who is a fellow rich kid. But we can have that conversation, but I don't think it matters. These people are going to do what they want to do. It's a heavily armed country with lots and lots of rhetoric. So, yeah, that's what I think. I think maybe they've unleashed the kraken. I think maybe they set these people off and they're not controllable and they're not just going to go after Democrats and they're not just going to go after the people who they're supposed to go after, right? So interesting times. Anyways, just thought I'd share that with you guys. You guys should go to my website and my TikTok page, and you should buy gifts for people from my website because they'll be extra cool. And then next year, when everybody knows who I am, they'll be like, oh my God, I can't believe you got me that last year. We're so cool. So anyways, love you all. I will talk with you again soon. Bye.